Hi guys, welcome to this lecture on how to use Logic Pro X. In this section, we're going to be looking at mixing. So mixing is before mastering. So I'm going to show you how to mix your own track from start to finish. So first thing I do is when I mix my track is label all your instruments, which I have here. If you want to label an instrument, all you need to do is double click and write the name of the instrument. So for example, I put clap 1. So that's what you need to do. It's just to organize your instruments. So when you're mixing, you know what's what. If it's a kick, a snare, it's easier to mix because you know exactly what instrument does what. So the first thing I like to do is have all my instruments, like my kicks, my snares, and my claps, all at the top. And the reason why I do this because it's more easier to go and mix the drums first and then mix everything else around it. So your kicks and your bass is the most effective in a track, especially for house music. So what I do as well, I'll go to the mixer. So you can press X to get to your mixer. And then what you want to do, you want to drag down all your instruments so it's quite low in the mix. So first thing we want to do is press Alt and drag it from here. All you need to do, because you've highlighted everything, which I have to highlight this one as well. Once you've highlighted everything, all you need to do is just drag it all down like this. So that's dragged down in the mix. The reason why you drag down the stereo out is because the stereo out is your output, and you need your stereo output to be around about here, so it gives you volume for the overall of your track. So the first thing I like to do is start with the kick. So you click on this channel. You can either do it this way or you can do it this way, where you can bring it up here. For example, what I think the easiest way to do it is doing it from this section here, so you can have a look to see what is actually going on. So I'm going to gradually pull up the volume for the kick so you can see what I'm doing. So what I tend to do is leave the kick around about 7.4, or you can even leave it to around about 6.8. It's entirely up to you. Between 7.4 and 6.8 is quite a good ratio to start with the kick. Then we can work our way around the whole instrument, and then we can just turn it up in the master to get a higher volume. So what we want to do is make a loop. All you have to do is drag a bar around the section, and what we do is just keep looping it till we find the right sound for our kick. So the first thing I do is go and grab a channel EQ. So we play this. So with the kick, that's the highest, that's where we want to keep it. That is the highest hertz that we need. Anything else, like from this section here, we don't need, because that's going to clash with the bass. That's another frequency that we don't need, this frequency here, because this frequency is going to clash with the bass. So all we want to do is just literally roll that off. So put this to 48. So you want to leave it around about here. So it just takes away that frequency from over here. And if we done it too much, it loses that kick. So what you want to do is drag it back. Run about there, I'll say. Yeah, just run about there. And just make that a bit wide. So this just widens up the frequency for the kick. And we want to leave it around about there, so it's got a bit of a curve on it. So you don't want to take too much off of that frequency, so the kick's not punchy enough. So that for a kick, you don't need to do too much with the EQ. For the compression now, what we're gonna use is a compressor in Logic. So you just go to your dynamics, go to your compressor, you go to stereo. And a lot of people tend to do a lot with their kicks on the compressor, but you don't need to do too much for your kick. You really don't need to do too much. All you need to do is just play around with the threshold and the ratio and your makeup. So first thing we want to do is play the kick. You want to put that around about 30, I'll say. 30 dB, that's what you would need to use for your kick, because it gives it a bit of punch. It's not too much and it's not too less as well at the same time. And your ratio, I like to keep my ratio a bit low. And the makeup is entirely up to you how you like your kick, but I like it to be really quite punchy. So I tend to leave it at number 5 dB. And with your attack and your knee and your release, you don't need to touch this for now, because it's really quite punchy, the kick, and it sits nice. It sits nice in the mix. And that's all you need to do for the compressor with your kick. And if we go on to your second kick as well, let's have a listen. And what we want to do is drag this up. Fits quite well. So what we're going to do, we're going to solo both of the kicks. Yeah, it's really quite punchy, this kick. So the first thing I'm going to do is grab an EQ. Let's switch the EQ around. Let's remove that for now. So we've got the EQ here, and we just gotta have a listen. Right, guys. Right, so you can tell that the frequency is way above this line over here, which we do not want that to be in a mix, because it's going to clash with all the other instruments. So let's have a listen again. We're just dragging this down. So this line, which is really above this line here, we just want to drag it down so it's sitting just on that line, or just a little bit over that line. But it doesn't. We don't want that frequency to be up here, you see. Yeah, so I'll say around about there. That's a good frequency. If you follow me on these settings here, you shouldn't have any problems when you're doing your kicks with house music. So if we have a listen to it before, it's really punchy, but it's too punchy and it's just gonna distort when you're playing into big speakers. And let's have a listen to it after the mix. Yeah, sounds better. So we played them to play your two kicks together. And we always can turn that up later on in the mix. So what you want to do also is put your compressor on, stereo, and solo the kick that you want to use, which is this higher drum kick. So let's press play. We're just dragging up the makeup to make up the loss of the kick hertz. So if we mute this compressor, it's punchy, but it's not punchy enough. But with that compressor and just lifting up the threshold and the ratio in the makeup, it just gives it that glue which you need. Now I'm gonna leave the attack at 15 how it was before. It sits well. We're just gonna turn that down just a little touch, and then add your other kick. Yeah. So in the mix, that's gonna really sit through nicely.